Welcome to Mindful of Tech. In this video, I wanted to share with you my thoughts, feelings and fears around the PlayStation 5 release. I know every YouTuber and their mother is doing that right now, but I really wanted to use this as an opportunity to discuss what kind of gamer I am, where I stand in the console wars, I guess, and just share with you some of my kind of rambling thoughts about the launch itself. It's going to be hopefully not too long form this video. I'm going to just say things as they come to me. Hopefully it won't be too rambly and bizarre and we won't have too many jump cuts. So the PlayStation 5 reveal started with, for some reason, Grand Theft Auto 5, which I own on multiple systems now and must admit I have very little interest in anyway. I mean, I've played a bit of it. I don't mind Grand Theft Auto as a series maybe, but it generally doesn't scratch the sort of gaming itch that I have. It's a bit too chaotic. But even if I was a massive fan, opening with a game which we already know everything about and like not even anything new, I don't think, like the footage was the same footage that we've seen in all the trailers. That was a bit of a weird choice, but what I will chuck up on the display while I kind of do my opening salvo on the PlayStation 5 is Jak and Daxter, because what this game, weirdly the only game I think actually really to truly show off one of the most interesting aspects of the PS5's new hardware, which is the SSD and how that SSD can be utilized at ludicrous speeds. Like they've basically wired that hard drive directly to the CPU, so they can push like 5 gigs a second. I think I read 8 gigs compressed data, which basically means loading times are gone. The concept of an open world just got more openier and more worldier. And as Jak and Daxter showed with its sort of transitions when he kind of falls through the dimensions, the transitions that can be made between levels that quickly. And if this is real-time footage, which I assume it is, then it really shows just how much of a games changer, because it will change multiple games, that SSD is going to be. And that's the bit of technology I'm most excited about. Obviously in the PC space we've had SSDs for ages. Some people have even modified their current gen of consoles with SSDs, which gives you slightly better loading time, but nothing compared to this one. There you go, you can see it there. How quickly it's able to stream in an entirely new world is absolutely amazing. And the reason behind the current trend in gaming with load times and transitions between areas and LOD pop-in and draw distance and all that kind of stuff is basically to do with the fact that we are still using mechanical drives. So the current gen PS4 and Xbox One X or Pro, whatever, they all use a mechanical hard drive, and those things are pretty slow. So up until this point, SSDs, like super fast SSDs that exist in the PC space that plug into very different ports to a normal hard drive, plug into much higher data rate buses, PCI bus, NVMe, whatever all that stuff means, they're able to push way more data. But up until now, that hasn't mattered for games. It just hasn't mattered at all, simply because there's been no games developed that actually truly can utilize the speeds of SSDs on a PC, because all the consoles are using mechanical drives. So there would be no point developing something that's solely focused on the PC, because the console market is so lucrative. So what this SSD in the PS5 does is open up the possibility of SSD speed really mattering, and possibly even a bit of an architectural shift in terms of how SSDs can actually communicate with the processor and how much speed that opens up. So yeah, what you're going to see, something which was shown in the Unreal demo that they did the other day, is much more data being able to be streamed into the game world in real time, which means that assets can be phenomenally more detailed than they are right now, as well as the game experience in terms of loading and how levels have to be subdivided and all that kind of stuff. That will just be a non-issue from now on. So that absolutely, right off the bat, is an absolute game changer. Well done, Sony. It's going to be really cool to see how that pans out. Saying that, I'm not going to jump ship and go and buy a PlayStation 5. I'm very much a PC gamer, although I have, I've got a PlayStation 4. I did have a Pro. We then got a Series X, so we downgraded to a normal one. I've had PlayStation 1. I own a couple of PS2s, but I didn't have any at the time. PlayStation 1 was my only PlayStation back in the day. Then I kind of ended up going Xbox and abandoned PlayStation, so I completely skipped the 2 and 3. I did get a PS4 because there were some exclusive games on it. And that's another factor, I think, that is quite interesting about this current generation and how things have changed, is when I first got a PS4 Pro, it was to play Horizon Zero Dawn, which funnily enough, I still haven't got around to playing. The good thing about that, however, is it has now come to PC. I was absolutely convinced that that game would not be going to the PC space. Simply because Guerrilla Games, wholly owned by Sony, very unlikely that Sony in the past have never really entered the PC space. But what I think has been quite interesting is that we're now getting to a point where we're kind of at saturation with gamers that can be taken from the PC space into the console space. So Sony have realised that there are certain PC gamers that are absolutely never going to buy anybody's console, let alone theirs. So by sticking a game on Steam, Epic, whatever, actually releasing it into the PC space, you can at least make some money out of those people. And Horizon Zero Dawn, I think, is out in a few days, which is pretty damn cool. I'm going to be playing that on the PC. It'll be very interesting to see how that engine performs on the PC. It's a beautiful game, absolutely beautiful game. Unfortunately, you've got the whole 30 FPS problem, which I have to say is probably my key sticking point with differentiating between console gaming and PC gaming, is that I unfortunately am sensitive to frame rate. I don't like 30 FPS. While I'm rambling on, I'll chuck the Horizon Zero Dawn up on the display behind me. So obviously this was the new Horizon, not Zero Dawn, Forbidden West, which is now coming out. Again, this is going to be graphically superb. It's absolutely going to be a showcase for the system. But having seen that Horizon Zero Dawn is now... Way. But having seen that Horizon Zero Dawn is now coming out on PC, I'm quite confident that I'll be able to see this one as well on PC in the future. So, one thing that I did take away from this PS5 reveal is the impact that it's going to have on PC gaming. Seeing some of these games that are currently being touted as exclusives, but I very much doubt that will remain the case and they will come to the PC space, are really going to be the sort of games that I'm going to be looking to upgrade my hardware for. Now, what's also great about these console releases, the Series X and the PS5, is that the RDNA 2 graphics, which are being made by AMD, will be available in the PC space as well. Not necessarily in exactly the same form, but once this console generation launches, AMD will be free to launch whatever graphics cards they want, show off that graphics technology with ray tracing, with the variable rate shading, with all the upscaling and clever stuff that NVIDIA have right now in the PC space. That should hopefully be coming to AMD cards. And that means that we'll be pushing forward graphics in a way that hasn't happened for some time due to the console cycle. And that's another feeling, a fear I have, I guess, around consoles in general. One thing I don't like is how much they hold back games. So they hold back technological advancement in games because developers are making games for old hardware. Like by the end of a console cycle, you're making games for 7-year-old hardware, which means that the PC space has all this power and nowhere to put it, because the console games that are coming out and then being converted to PC are just not up to the challenge. There are obviously some games which are PC developed first, and that's great. There always will be those, but they are few and far between, mostly because the console space is so profitable. So what's great about a new console release is it's super exciting for the PC gamers because, hey, we're going to get to see graphical advancements again. That's kind of bittersweet because the reason we're seeing graphical advancements is consoles are coming out with new hardware in them, and we then know that that's going to stagnate and we're not going to get interesting new games, in 4 or 5 years' time, because the console games are going to be kind of holding that back. So, for me personally, as I said, Probably not going to be buying one. Of all the games that I saw, I will go through a list of the games in a minute as well. All of the ones that I was interested in, like all of them, appear to be coming to PC. So I don't really have any reason to invest. And this is why obviously there's so much PlayStation exclusive right there. There's so much marketing around the exclusivity of games, because Sony want to appear that the majority of their software is exclusive in order to get people to move away from whatever platform they're currently on. The reality of it is you might be a couple of years behind, but you will get those games eventually, I would say. So yeah, I mean, that's enough hardware talk. Say, a little disappointed that we didn't get a full kind of hardware reveal in the sense of having a bit of kind of, what people might think of as jargon, but a bit of like actual tech specs, someone kind of trying to explain in human terms what the technology in the PlayStation 5 actually is. However, the games that they showed obviously did show off that technology to a certain extent, but I don't feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, I saw anything that was this incremental leap that they're talking about in the generation. So Sony have made this big thing about you're going to see games that look nothing like they've ever looked before. This is going to be a much bigger hardware leap than we've ever had, generation to generation, and all this kind of stuff. One reason for that is ray tracing. That on a stream, especially not a great quality stream like the one Sony was running, you're not necessarily going to pick up on the high fidelity of some of the more subtle detail. So ray tracing is obviously a fundamental shift in how lighting is done in games, and allows for super realistic, very, very easy to deal with lighting, opens up a whole new realm of possibility for developers. Unfortunately, in terms of a kind of bells and whistles approach, it's not that easy to illustrate exactly how much of a change that is, because developers have got so good at tricking us into thinking we have actual working light simulation in games anyway, with screen space reflections and cube maps and blah blah blah. So ray tracing has made all of those shiny surfaces, all of those reflective surfaces, a billion times more realistic, but that doesn't necessarily come across, so it doesn't necessarily look like this huge generational leap. We've gone from artists having to represent light in creative ways, and they've got super good at it, to having full-on light simulation. So you literally just have light that behaves like light does. And obviously that's a massive jump in computing power, but not necessarily something that super screams off the screen at you. And everything else, I can't help but think a lot of these projects were probably already in development for current gen, Pro and PS4. So we're perhaps not seeing stuff that's like super detailed. So Project Athia looked to me, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looked to me as if it was running on the same engine as Final Fantasy 15. Just in terms of some of the details. I mean, obviously way more detailed than Final Fantasy 15, but I couldn't help but think there was some similarities in it. Obviously we don't actually know anything about this at all, and it's wise to be wary of vaporware. So, I was re-watching the PlayStation 4 reveal the other day. Digital Foundry are doing a brilliant thing where they go back and commentate on old console reveals, and there were a couple of things there that were total vaporware, that just literally were mentioned at the launch event and then never mentioned again. This is Square Enix, so it's fairly unlikely that's the case, and I mean, it looks super slick. Again, coming to PC though, so I don't have any reason to jump ship for that one. This designed for PlayStation 5 thing, that's interesting. That's a very interesting way of sort of saying, trying to look like it's exclusive while not actually being exclusive. PlayStation 5 console exclusive, so that sounds very much like PC will be getting it, Xbox won't. And the thing is, well, with design for PlayStation 5 and using that as like a benchmark of how, whether or not it's the best system to play it on. Oblivion was designed for the Xbox 360, straight up. It was developed on an Xbox 360 and then converted to PC, and the PC version's still superior, clearly superior. So, I mean, even just down to, scaling to higher resolutions, 60 FPS, all of those things that I personally think are important. So some of the other games that I thought looked super interesting. Pragmata The game from Capcom, again, from what I've read, is already announced as coming to PC, so not something we need to worry about missing out on if we don't buy a PlayStation 5. That looked super, super cool. The graphics looked really impressive. Like Capcom's engines that they've been working on. I mean, I don't know whether or not this is on an in-house engine. I assume so, or if it's on Unreal. But what they've been doing with Resident Evil and stuff recently, it's just looking so good. Capcom have absolutely stepped up as this huge developer. And before Capcom games, obviously they were big in the arcade. They had a lot of kind of weird Japanese games. Now they're really taking the bull by the horns and getting into full AAA games production, and that's a cool thing to see. Obviously we saw Resident Evil 8 as well, which I must admit I didn't know that there was going to be a Resident Evil announcement or anything like that. So for me, I just thought it was like some cool horror game, and then at the end the village, and then it becomes 8 and Resident Evil. Like that was a cool touch. I personally had no idea that was Resident Evil until the end. I'm sure I'm a massive idiot, and there were a million giveaways in there, but I'm not really much of a fan of the series, so they would have passed me by. Resident Evil is just a bit too scary for me, to be honest. I don't do very well with horror games. Pragmata, however, yeah, that looks really, really cool. Looking forward to that one. One of the other games that I was really, really looking forward to is the Kenna Bridge of Spirits. So this one looked obviously just adorable from the start. Quite sort of Ghibli-esque. I'm a big fan of those kind of movies. If we can actually get it to play. And again, went online. It's available on the PC. So no real reason to worry too much about missing out on that one either. Ghostwire Tokyo. That was another game I was like, oh. And I honestly thought that one was going to be 100% PS5 exclusive. That was the one I was looking at being like, oh man, is this the one that's going to sell me the console? But then looking at it, I think this is one that's got Bethesda attached as a publisher, so there's no way that's going to be an exclusive. And from what I've looked at, that's coming to PC as well. In fact, I think it's even got a Steam page already. I might have made that up, but there's a couple of these games that have already got Steam pages, so they're already right on my wish list. I mean, this game for me, I'm a big Japan fan, a big fan of Japanese stuff. Anyone that knows me or has ever followed any of the previous stuff I've done on the internet will know that I am 100% a massive weeb, or at least a recovering weeb. I'm a bit too old to take full weeaboo status these days, but it still tickles my fancy. So yeah, this game looks really, really cool. As I was saying, I'm not really a big fan of horror games, but this one looks kind of arcadey and actiony enough to not be too scary, hopefully. So yeah, Deathloop, another game that has actually already been announced, but obviously we've got to see a little bit more of it. I'm a massive fan of Arcane. I'm a massive fan of Dishonored. I'm a big fan of a lot of the stuff that they did in earlier days as well. This game to me really kind of looks like Dishonored in all but name and feeling. I know that because Dishonored 2 did badly, because it wasn't as good as the first one, definitely was more to explore in Dunwall. Was very, very sad when Dishonored 2 moved away from Dunwall. But this game almost looks like it could have been Dishonored 3, and they've kind of had a change of art direction, which wouldn't surprise me, as I know Dishonored has kind of been put on the back burner because of the poor performance of 2. As you can see from the footage here, all of the gameplay very, very similar to Dishonored. Has this very, very cool sort of retro futurist world, which is oh so popular these days. And then obviously you've got this time mechanic, which I actually think, I hope it plays out like I think it will, because the way that I play these kind of games, I always do stealth playthroughs on these, like 100% don't get seen, full ghost, etc. And this one looks like it's actually kind of made that a mechanic with the whole time loop thing. So you get caught, back to your save, that sort of thing. I'm hoping that's what they've done, is kind of incorporate that sort of, oh, I was spotted, load autosave game, into an actual gameplay mechanic. But maybe that's just a flight of fancy on my part. So then we had a couple of interesting looking little indie reveals. This game, Little Devil Inside. This is a game that was like a Kickstarter project, so it's very much a kind of indie development. What's interesting about it is having a look online, I couldn't really find any hard evidence that it was cross-platform. Their website currently has it appearing on every single platform, including Wii U for some reason. But it's saying like, oh wait, we're going to update this information. I did also see some stuff saying it gone to being a PlayStation exclusive. I mean, again, I would put money on it coming to PC and probably other consoles too, as it's a kind of indie title. Definitely PC. But yeah, I mean, that just looks like a fun little kind of RPG mashup type thing. There was actually that bit we just saw now. There has been some controversy about, I believe, the particular character design of the more sort of tribal characters. There's been some outcry, and I think they are now reversing some of that character design. I'm sure you can get on Twitter or wherever for the full drama surrounding that. But yeah, looks like a cool, interesting little indie game. And, finally, the last game I wanted to pick out of the group was Stray. Another one that I was like, is this going to be an exclusive? Bit worried. But then I felt like I recognised the concept. I am so sure years and years and years and years and years ago, I came across like this indie concept for a game that was a cat navigating around. It had this kind of futuristic setting. It looked so cool. And then I kind of never found the webpage again. I completely forgot about it until I saw this. So I'm really hoping that this is the fulfillment of that concept and not just someone else running with the idea. If you know, let me know. I don't know what the game was originally called. I can recall like nothing about it other than a website with some sort of concept art, some kind of animation work and stuff. And it looked exactly like this. So I'm really hoping this is the fulfillment of that dream, because the idea of playing as a cat in a kind of futuristic environment and jumping around, navigating the terrain, and it's so cool. This is another game that I'm super excited for, and another one that is coming to the PC space. Might even be one of the ones that's got a Steam page, can't remember. So that's pretty much it for the actual PlayStation reveal. As I say, hopefully that's given you a bit of an idea, kind of, where I'm at. I've tried not to use any kind of inflammatory language or anything like that in this video. I don't really agree with the console wars as such. I believe that you should buy whatever makes you happy. Sometimes it is unfortunate that perhaps inferior hardware might make you happier because you like the brand. That's maybe not so cool. But at the end of the day, it's entirely up to all of you how you spend your money. So, yeah, I don't want to get involved in console wars, PC Master Race, all that business. Needless to say, I personally am sensitive to frame rates. I would much rather play at 60 FPS locked. At the very least, I would like to play at 30 FPS locked, on a controller. 30 FPS is actually okay. I play very, very heavily crazy modded Fallout on my PC with a controller sometimes, so that I can have like crazy graphical effects. Runs at 30 FPS. Makes me sick with a keyboard and mouse, but works with a joypad. So yeah, the times that I've solely gamed on consoles, I've almost got to a point where I can ignore the 30 FPS, 60 FPS divide. However, games that drop below even 30 is inexcusable, and that's something we've seen all over this last generation. Is games that can't even consistently hold 30. So my main hope and prayer as part of this new console generation is that we get 60 to 120 FPS, not 30 to 60 to sometimes maybe even 28, 27, 25. I want 60 to 120. I don't think I'll see it. I think we're already seeing games running at 30 FPS. So for me personally, that's where my vote goes, is to better frame rates. I would rather wait for the RDNA 2 cards to come out and upgrade my PC than I would invest in either of the next gen consoles. If we invest as a household, it will probably be in the Series X, simply because myself and my partner are now quite tied into the Microsoft ecosystem in terms of the Game Pass subscriptions. And I would imagine they're either going to do a hardware subscription for the next one, because you can currently get Xboxes as hardware subscriptions. So Microsoft are very much going into the subscription model. I do fear that Sony's SSD implementation might be a bit of a setback for Microsoft. As with the last generation, the Xbox One was technologically inferior to the PlayStation 4 in pretty much every way. And it wasn't really until the One X came out that actually even, you know, beat the Pro, that they were even worth picking up, which is what we did. We bought one then. At the time, I bought a PS4 Pro because it was literally the most powerful console on the market. You know, we downgraded it when we went to the One X, but at the time, that thing was unbeatable. It just, unfortunately for me, wasn't quite consistent enough. You know, being able to get 60 FPS in a PS Vita game that's been converted, that's running at 4K is great and everything, but there didn't feel like there was enough, you know, leaning towards performance over graphics. I guess one of the difficult things in the console space is that in order to have, like, you know, you have different patches, so it's like you can pick performance mode or resolution mode or whatever. I would imagine Sony are reluctant to allow developers to gimp the graphics too much, to bring things too low, because those videos will get out and people are going, ha, look at how this looks compared to the Xbox and stuff. And, you know, you're missing the point that if people want frame rate, they should be able to have frame rate at the cost of whatever, which is why the PC space, you know, and how PC gaming works is so much better for me, because I can tweak around, I can mess with things, I can get the frame rate that I want. You know, and if it's going to be too ugly getting 60 FPS because I'm having to turn the settings all down to the minimum, then cool, I'll play at 30. But there was nothing in this generation that kind of did either. Nothing really blew me away in terms of presentation. Maybe Horizon Zero Dawn. I have to say that's a game that looked absolutely stunning, you know, and looked for a long time stunning only on the PlayStation. We're going to get to see what it performs like on the PC. But yeah, there was nothing that was like so graphically amazing that I thought it justified the low frame rates. So for me personally, I'm going to be sticking with PC. Let me know where you stand on it. And like me, you know, try and be pretty neutral about it. Let's not have a console war, PC master race, you know, versus peasants or whatever you want to do. I don't like any of that stuff. It's up to all of us what platform we game on. We all get better games as a result of the gaming market being much, much more profitable than it ever was before. But it's important to buy what you want. So let me know what you want and where you're planning to spend your money. For me, I guess I'm too salty about Sony knocking Sega out of the market. You know, those wounds are never going to heal. Never going to heal. So that said, that's probably about it for my ludicrously long, rambly video. Hopefully it's given you something to think about. You know, and hopefully it's given you a bit more insight into kind of how I feel about gaming and gaming technology in general. Let me know in the comments if you've got anything to say. If you like the video, please like it. Please subscribe to the channel so that you can see more videos like this. If you didn't like it, there is a button for that, or you can come and let me know, you know, how we can improve things around here to make you happy. So, follow me on Twitter, subscribe, like, notification bells, all the general YouTube nonsense you all turned off by this point anyway, and I'll catch you next time. Thank you very much. Be well.